The silence coming from Silverstone right now is heavy. We are exactly 2 weeks away from the biggest car launch in Aston Martin's history. The rumors are not about speed. They concern a crisis that could derail the entire $200 million project before the first wheel turns. Today is January 26, 2026, and the Formula One world waits anxiously. Lance Stroll has been building toward this specific moment for 3 years. He bought the land, built the modern campus, and signed the exclusive works deal with Honda. Most importantly, he hired Adrian Newey, the man responsible for the most dominant cars in history. On paper, the new AMR 26 should be the car that finally breaks the Red Bull stranglehold, but paper does not win championships. Just days ago in Tokyo, Honda revealed their new 2026 power unit, the RA626H. It looked impressive under the studio lights, but the words that followed from HRC President Koji Watanabe worried every Aston Martin fan. He admitted bluntly that the team is struggling with the combustion side of the new engine. Combine that with reports that the chassis build at Silverstone is running behind schedule, and the Dream Team looks incredibly fragile. The 2026 regulations were supposed to be the major reset. Instead, they might expose whether money really can buy speed. Adrian Newey walked through the doors at Silverstone on March 3, 2025. That gave him roughly 10 months to influence the AMR 26. In the world of Formula One engineering, that is a lifetime. Usually, a technical director arrives too late to change the chassis concept, but Newey's contract was timed specifically for this regulation cycle. He did not just tweak the aerodynamics, he fundamentally dictated the philosophy of this car. Reports from inside the factory suggest the active aero systems, a key part of the 2026 rules, are entirely his vision. However, Newey pushes boundaries. He designs cars that are difficult to build because they are so tightly packaged. If the rumors of production delays are true, it is likely because the manufacturing team is struggling to physically create the shapes Newey has drawn. We saw this with the MP418 at McLaren years ago. It was a car so advanced it never even raced. Lance Stroll is paying him an estimated $30 million a year, not just to design a car, but to guarantee a title. If this car is late to the Bahrain test, that investment starts to look risky. Honda is also back. They are fully back, not just as a sticker on a Red Bull, but as a full factory partner for Aston Martin. This was the masterstroke, because it meant Aston Martin would not be a customer team to Mercedes anymore. They would control their own destiny. However, the admission from Tokyo last week was startling. Koji Watanabe spoke plainly. He said the electrical side of the hybrid unit is on target, but the internal combustion engine is fighting severe development hurdles. The 2026 regulations demand a 50-50 split between electric and combustion power. If the combustion engine is weak, you lose top speed and the ability to charge the battery efficiently. It sounds strikingly similar to the early McLaren-Honda days of 2015. Fernando Alonso was there for that disaster and remembers the feeling of a GP2 engine. The panic inside the team must be intense right now. They have left the safety of the Mercedes power unit for a Honda project that openly admits it is behind the curve. If the RA626H is unreliable, it does not matter how much downforce Adrian Newey finds. Fernando Alonso represents the human cost of these delays. Alonso turns 45 this July. He signed that contract extension through 2026 because he believed this was his final opportunity for a third world title. He has seen the wind tunnel numbers and knows what Newey is capable of. Patience is not a luxury he has anymore. If the AMR 26 starts the season slow, there is no waiting for next year. This is it! His physical conditioning is still elite, and his reaction times are still incredibly fast. but he cannot drive a car that is sitting in the garage with an oil leak. Sources close to the Spaniard say he has been spending unusually long hours in the simulator, trying to find setup workarounds for the engine's deficits. That is the indication of a driver who knows he might have to perform extraordinary feats again. He did not sign up to fight for P8. He stayed to win. If the car is not ready for the February 9th launch, the frustration we saw in his final Alpine years will look like a mild annoyance compared to what is coming. If you are finding this detailed analysis of the Aston Martin crisis interesting, hit subscribe and the notification bell right now. We cover breaking F1 stories like this every single week, and you do not want to miss the updates as testing begins. This leads to the biggest problem of all. The most obvious issue is Lance Stroll. He is confirmed for 2026. He signed that extension back in June 2024, but the situation has changed completely since then. When they were a midfield team, carrying the owner's son was manageable. It was a family business. However, this is now a super team. A campus like that is not built, and Adrian Newey is not hired just to finish fourth in the Constructors' Championship because one driver is lagging behind. The data from 2025 showed the gap between Alonso and Stroll had not closed significantly. In a dominant car, that gap matters less. Perez proved you can finish second in the championship even if you are miles off Max. However, if the field is tight, and if Ferrari and McLaren are right there, Aston Martin cannot afford to have one car fighting for wins and the other fighting for points. The pressure on Lance this season will be unlike anything he has ever faced. He is not just driving for his dad anymore. He is driving for Honda, for Aramco, and for the legacy of Adrian Newey. If he costs them the Constructors' title, the board might finally force Lawrence to make the decision no father wants to make. The financial aspect is also critical. Lawrence Stroll is a billionaire, but he is also a businessman. He did not fund this entire project out of his own pocket. He brought in private equity, sold stakes to Arctos, and increased the valuations based on the promise of future success. These investors expect a return. In Formula One, return on investment comes from winning. The valuation of the team is currently above £1 billion, largely included in the Newey premium. If the car fails, that valuation takes a hit. Rumors were swirling late last year that Lawrence might be looking to sell a majority stake if they hit their targets. A championship-winning team sells for $3 billion easily. A midfield team with a struggling engine is worth much less. The financial exposure here is massive. Every delay in the factory burns cash, and every blown engine on the dyno costs millions. Lawrence has been ruthless in business his whole life. He fired Otmar Safnauer and pushed out technical directors who did not deliver. It is unclear if he has that same ruthlessness when the variables are his own son and his own impatience. Max Verstappen casts a shadow over Silverstone. The rumors have not stopped. Even with his Red Bull contract running to 2028, the exit clauses are there. Max has always said he wants to drive for Newey and has always admired Honda. Aston Martin is the only team that has both. If the AMR 26 is a dominant car, the paddock rumors say Max is already lined up for 2027. That puts even more pressure on the current lineup. It means Lance is effectively auditioning to keep his seat against the best driver of his generation. Or, perhaps even more shockingly, Alonso is fighting to prove he should not be the one moved aside for Max. It seems unlikely they would drop Fernando, but if Max Verstappen knocks on your door, you open it. This entire 2026 season is basically a job interview for the team itself. They have to prove to Max that they are a serious operation. If they show up to Bahrain with a car that fails every 10 laps, Max will sign with Mercedes or stay at Red Bull before the first race is even finished. Despite the engine fears and the delays, one piece of news keeps the hope alive. The wind tunnel numbers are promising. Leaks from the simulation team suggest the aerodynamic efficiency of the AMR26 is impressive. Newey has apparently found a loophole in the active aero regulations, specifically around how the front wing stalls at high speed to reduce drag. Rival teams are already asking the FIA for clarifications, which is usually the best sign that you have done something brilliant. If the chassis is as good as the rumors say, it might not matter if the Honda engine is slightly down on power. Red Bull dominated for years with a Renault engine that was not the best, simply because the car stuck to the ground better than anything else. This is the Newey strategy. Build a car so efficient that it masks every other weakness. The fear at Silverstone is not that the car is slow. The fear is that it is too complex to finish in time. They are racing the clock, not the competition. This situation implies that Aston Martin is the volatile variable of 2026. They have the highest potential and the greatest risk of any team on the grid. If the Honda engine holds together and Newey's aero works, they could lap the field. However, if the reliability gremlins from the Honda test bench follow them to the track, it could be a humiliating year. For Lance Stroll, this is the final stage. There are no more big hires to make. He has the best designer, the best engine partner, and the best facilities. The excuses have run out. This season will either validate his aggressive management style or prove that you cannot shortcut your way to F1 glory, no matter how many checks you write. The Stroll dilemma is not just about Lance anymore. It is about whether the entire organization is built on a foundation of solid engineering or just hype. The countdown to February 9th is on. We will know the truth the moment that garage door opens in Bahrain. It is going to be a season of chaos, and we will be covering every lap. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay ahead of the grid this season, make sure you are subscribed.